Hi everyone, welcome to Difference Frames the World, a unique voice to reveal another side of world affairs. Today, we talk about Lithuania, a beautiful country kidnapped by a handful of anti-Russia and anti-China politicians, as it allowed Taiwan's DPP authorities to open a representative office under the name of Taiwan, not Chinese Taipei. Beijing froze the bilateral relations with Lithuania by reducing the diplomatic relationship to Charge D, which is the lowest level. However, the honeymoon between Taiwan and Lithuania ended when Taiwan could not buy as many Lithuanian products as expected. Tsai Ing-wen and the Lithuanian president are not like brothers and sisters anymore, and the latter can hardly win back Beijing's business as he hopes. Gitanas Nausėda is an economist. Apparently, he can make a better life as a CEO of a 300-person company than the president of a country with 3 million people. A small business owner has a mindset different from a country leader. But Lithuanian voters chose him, and now it is the time for them to pay the price. In a previous video, we pointed out that the country had been promised a loan of $600 million by the United States, so it provoked China by undermining Beijing's One China principle, allowing Taiwan to open an office in its capital. The Lithuanian leader used to be a high-rank executive in a Lithuanian bank for over 10 years before becoming the president, so it is normal for him to think $600 million is more than enough for him to break the relations with Beijing. Unfortunately, those promised $600 million in the name of export credit arrangements are not free. Lithuania needs to pay back the principal plus interests. Even though the interests might be slightly lower than regular loans, they still burden Lithuanian exporters. China is not a significant importer of Lithuanian products, which is why Vilnius agreed to establish a closer relationship with Taiwan at the request of the United States. However, the Chinese government has reportedly forbidden importing any products with Lithuanian components, so many of Lithuania's buyers turn to other countries for parts. Germany is a good example. It has constantly urged Lithuania to repair its relations with Beijing. Still, ruining its relations with China mainland is only a part-time job for those elected representatives. Fighting with Russia is their prominent work. After the outbreak of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, Lithuania downgraded its diplomatic relations with Russia and expelled the Russian ambassador. And within the European Union, Lithuania was the first to cut off Russian oil and gas supplies completely. When a tiny country like Lithuania provokes a nation as extensive as Russia, the big one gets the last laugh. According to TASS, Russian State Duma member Fyodorov recently submitted a bill not to recognize Lithuania as an independent state. Yevgeny Fyodorov is an influential politician in Russia. He is the deputy of the State Duma of the Federal Assembly of Russia for 4 convocations, chairman of the Committee on Economic Policy and Entrepreneurship of the State Duma, and member of the Central Political Council of the United Russia Party. According to Fyodorov, the former Soviet State Council's recognition of Lithuania's independence was an illegal decision because the Soviet State Council was not a constitutional body of the former Soviet Union, and its decision to recognize Lithuania's independence had violated the former Soviet Union's constitution. Russia, as the legal heir to the former Soviet Union, had to correct the decision of the USSR State Council. Fyodorov's point is that if the Russian Duma does not recognize Lithuania's independence, then Russia, as the successor to the Soviet Union, will have grounds for territorial claims against Lithuania, even making it a republic under the Russian Federation. The Russian politician who initiated such a bill wants to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. It can stop Lithuania from making more fuss and lay a solid legal foundation for Russia's potential action against Vilnius. We discussed in previous videos why Lithuania is so desperately against Russia and earnestly begs the US to station its troops in Vilnius. And Yevgeny Fyodorov's motion perfectly explains it. When the former Soviet State Council approved the independence of the 3 Baltic states, no one raised objections. 3 decades later, a top official and State Duma member raised this issue, and it is not merely a joke. Any person who was not born yesterday knows that a tiny country should not irritate a potent neighbor at the request of a government from afar. Lithuania and 2 other Baltic states indeed joined NATO in 2004. But who knows whether NATO will keep its word when a NATO member is invaded. NATO is a loose military alliance, and some of its members are pro-Russia, like Turkey and Hungary. It is only a geopolitical tool for some powers or one particular superpower to manipulate the world. The more member states NATO includes, the least likely it will fight for one member's specific interests. Will NATO fight Russia for Lithuania at a later date? Or will it just turn away as it did not fight India for Portugal at the end of 1961 when India annexed Goa? After World War II, the number of countries worldwide is almost 200, which has almost tripled in less than 80 years. The United Nations has 193 member states and 2 observers, and NATO has already included over 30 of them as its members. Suppose NATO is willing to defend any of its members from outside attacks, which we doubt, and all its members are arrogant and aggressive. In that case, as expected by some countries' military-industrial complex, NATO will have to fight all day, and the world will always be at war. When China reportedly forbade importing Lithuanian products, Lithuania asked the European Union for help, but the latter had forgotten that Lithuania is one of its members. It told Lithuania to talk with China directly, implying it is none of the European Union's business to confront China for so tiny a member state as Lithuania. We wonder, what would NATO do if Russia passed Yevgeny Fyodorov's bill to recall the former Soviet State Council's recognition of Lithuania's independence and decided to reunite with Lithuania? Will the US, Germany, France, the UK and other NATO members stand by as they give up Ukraine today? They are afraid of World War III, which should be a nuclear war to ruin the whole world. So they do not send troops to Kiev to protect the Ukrainian leader as they hinted before the conflict. Lithuania has a population of less than 3 million. Will it be worthwhile for NATO to drag 8 billion people worldwide into a war of destruction to protect such a tiny member? NATO leaders must do calculations before making such a critical decision, which takes time. Even if they finally decided to help Vilnius later, the Russians should have sent some Lithuanian leaders to prison as NATO had arrested the Yugoslavia leader after striking today's Serbia for nearly 3 months without approval from the United Nations. Many say some Lithuanian politicians should have received money under the table to undermine their country's interests. And we do not know whether the allegation is true. Still, it might be a good idea to check their bank accounts, most likely in Switzerland, before concluding. Thank you so much for your continuous support. Your precious time with us is highly appreciated. We do our work as a mission, a cause. Please help us grow and reach more extensive audiences by forwarding our content to as many people as possible. We publish videos daily and post long videos on topics viewers are interested in once or twice a week. If you have not subscribed to our channel or turned on the notification bell, please do it now, so you will not miss our new content daily. Please use the PayPal or Patreon link below, or scan the QR codes to support us.